Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Let's now check in again with the House of Representatives. As Republicans, the latest news is, have moved on from Jim Jordan as their speaker candidate. And where the House goes now, no one seems to know. On the first vote this week, Jim Jordan lost 20 Republicans. He could have lost 4 and still won. In the second vote on Thursday, he lost 22. And this morning, the vote was 25 for other Republican candidates, 3 more defectors apparently in districts won by Joe Biden in 2020. And this has been quite a spectacle. This is Kevin McCarthy nominating Jim Jordan on the floor on Friday, getting a little boisterous there in the House on this third vote for Jordan. And then you can hear acting Speaker Patrick McHenry banging the gavel at the end.
Jim Jordan is an effective legislator. To legislate is about more than the name on the bill. It's about reaching compromise and working long hours behind the scenes to get the job done.
The House will come to order.
Bill, I'm running out of things to say about this Republican House conference, but amazing now. We are in week 2 of a paralyzed House of Representatives with no speaker. We've now had a deposed Kevin McCarthy, a failed bid by Steve Scalise before that even reached the floor, 3 failed votes for Jim Jordan, and it is still unclear who among any of these Republicans can get the 218 to run the House.
Well, you have to ask yourself, what kind of Republican in his right mind would be willing to run for that office now? I mean, right now, a leader, almost any leader, is better than no one. It's not been good for the party. It harks back to Matt Gaetz and his 7 colleagues deciding to topple leadership with no follow-up plan or candidate in mind. And just the chaos was supposed to be good for us. And it isn't. And I don't know where they go. The fact that Jordan lost votes on successive ballots seemed to me to indicate that the guys aren't getting the message. Right now, it's more important to have a speaker than who the specific speaker is. They seem willing to indulge their kind of arbitrary caprice and rejecting people with no positive plan for the future. So I'm not optimistic. I personally, if I were a Republican in Congress and I was asked to run, I wouldn't run unless they promised to repeal the rules that could lead to this again. Because I think you either pay the price up front or you pay it down the line. And it's insane. The only one that benefits are the Democrats. You have an incoherent Republican Party in Washington.
A few ways that this could possibly play out, and who knows which of them are viable at this point. One we've discussed previously, which is empowering the acting Speaker, Patrick McHenry, to advance some kind of limited agenda for a limited time frame, something maybe to get these appropriations bills going as we're staring down another government funding deadline in the middle of November. Republicans seem opposed to that. Some of them apparently had been pushing Mr. McHenry to act on his own, to just start bringing things on the floor and then asking for a majority to overrule any objections that would arise. He has resisted that. The latest I have seen here on Friday is that he has opened the door slightly to an actual vote to give him some sort of temporary power. Another is maybe you start to rack up absences. There were 2 Republicans and 4 Democrats, according to Politico, who did not respond to the quorum call on Friday morning. And since the majority needed to become speaker as a majority of those voting, if there are more absences, that could affect the total in a way that could possibly get somebody over the finish line. And then this idea also that there could be a coalition of the moderates. And let's listen to the Democratic House leader, Hakeem Jeffries, pitching that idea.
Jim Jordan is a clear and present danger to our democracy. And he is the poster child for MAGA extremism. We are saying to our traditional Republican colleagues, good men and women on the other side of the aisle, in the attachment to the extremist Jim Jordan and join with Democrats in finding a bipartisan path forward.
One last intriguing suggestion. This happened before the House conference decided to move on from Jim Jordan, but 7 of the 8 Republicans who ousted Kevin McCarthy signed a letter suggesting that if their colleagues would put Jordan in the speaker's seat, they would accept, quote, censure, suspension, or removal from the conference. And so I assume that offer is now off the table, as Jim Jordan's speakership is now off the table. Remarkable that we have reached the point where the members of that Republican revolt are willing to accept some consequences in exchange for ending this stalemate.
Well, let's not assume that is necessarily altruistically motivated. I mean, they created this crisis with their actions by deposing McCarthy, and nobody who followed has been able to command McCarthy's support. And so now I think there is partially a realization that this was not a politically good idea. And I think Republicans should be skeptical of anything that invites other Republicans to let these 8 members look like martyrs and political victims, as opposed to free actors who made their own choices and created the conditions for what we have now. The working with Democrats alternative continues to be unattractive. Note really quickly the irony of someone calling Jim Jordan a threat to democracy. Now, what could happen next? Yes, you could see some possible temporary option for McHenry, but so far, I'm not sure that has majority support in the conference. It seems like you might need something like that for at least for some temporarily, because I can't see anybody being really willing or able to take on the job with a shutdown looming so closely. It seems like you need somebody to clear the decks on the appropriations bill before a longer term speaker. And I've been thinking a lot, is there a candidate that could be drafted that could get the votes and overcome the motion to vacate, get rid of that as a condition of being drafted to be speaker? I don't know. I mean, think about when Paul Ryan was drafted after John Boehner was toppled. He gave up his job on Ways and Means, and I'm not sure he was treated particularly well by the Republican conference in the years that followed. So I'm not sure who would sign up for that duty, even if they could be drafted at this point. So again, not much smoke coming out of this chimney yet. Might take another week to figure it out.
Thank you, Kate and Bill. Thank you all for listening. You can email your own speaker nominations to pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back next week with another edition of Potomac Watch.